typically January is a pretty strong month for metals. So what are you expecting in January and for the rest of the year as we enter 2022?
Well, I think 2022 will be a volatile year with big moves in both directions. I think that silver will find its footing in 2022. January, as you mentioned, is usually one of the strongest months. We tend to see a rally that goes through until early February as the first portion of that, and then some retracement, and then an attempt to go through into April. And finally, when we get to June, that's usually whatever we get for the first half takes place and is kind of exhausted itself by then. If we haven't seen it break out above $50 by then, maybe a challenge, then we go into the summer doldrums. This year, I think it'll be a broad sideways to slightly higher motion while we try to get into the August double bottom that silver and the miners tend to see, and then we will see a strong fall. So I really think that either silver goes through 50 the first time this spring, or more than likely it goes through in the fall leading into 2023, which would make it the fourth attempt at $50. And the fourth attempt is usually a successful move on the chart. So that's kind of my big picture look. And it's a little bit risky sometimes to talk price and time, but I just have a sense that 2022 is going to be a pivotal year finally for the metals and the miners. Silver, it will continue coiling and move upward and break out above $30. That will be when everybody really starts paying attention. And of course, if you wait for $30, you've already missed $8 from where we are now. So I don't encourage people to try to put on their positions after that happens. I mean, it's fine to add something that's going in the right direction to what you have, but if you're sitting there with little or no physical metal and you haven't done the research on the mining stocks you want to have, you're going to leave a third of that move at least behind if you wait for the charts to kind of confirm what you already think might happen. So that's my suggestion.
And I know on the physical side, I mean, if we look at our inventory at Miles Franklin, we've been seeing a lot of these sovereign minted coins, a lot of people purchasing those, and the premiums have been increasing recently, just in the last week or so. Your perspective on where those premiums are going to go in the future, and also the kind of availability and shortages we're going to see in 2022.
I started looking at the fractional coins. I don't know if you would call them sovereign coins. It's the ones that used to circulate in Europe, the French francs and the Swiss francs that have about a little less than a quarter of an ounce of gold in them. And the premiums then were around 3 to 4%. And a few weeks ago, I looked again and I was considering buying some, and they were around 8%. And of course, the fractionals and the full ounce coins like the gold maple leaf and the American gold eagle, their premiums are fairly elevated as well too, especially on the fractionals. They seem to be kind of hard to find nowadays. Maybe there'll be more in the spring, but I was looking at some of those as well, and I was surprised at how strong that premium was. Are you seeing that sort of thing in the fractionals as well?
Definitely. I mean, typically fractional bullion is going to be a lot higher premium than the 1 ounce size or larger than that. As you get to larger sizes, obviously the premiums do fall.
Right. And I understand that, the year before last, India bought relatively little silver compared to what they normally do. And this year, in the latter part of this year, they purchased 40 million ounces. So that's a pretty significant jump. And I think we're going to see that continued strength going on. And then with the wedding season coming up in the new year for China in terms of gold purchase and also silver. So I think we're going to see a pretty steady drain down on the physical supply around the globe. And the Europeans are really getting it now that they need to buy some more metal because, they've increased the premiums over there, and also the reporting levels have decreased. Just a few years ago, they were around $5,000 in Germany, and I think now they're under $2,000. So if you want to have a little privacy, there's no point in waiting until it becomes 500 for a reporting level, that's for sure. Early last year, I wrote an essay, and then I followed it up with one just last month at Money Metals discussing this. I never did believe we were looking at transitory inflation. I thought it would be very similar to what I personally experienced as well David Morgan did too. We didn't know each other then, but we were both involved in the metals. And the inflation was higher than anticipated, and it lasted right up to the end of the decade when Paul Volcker raised rates, to kind of commensurate with the inflation, which was running as high as 16 to 18%. That finally broke the back of the inflation for quite a while, but we don't have anyone of the stature, both in terms of physically or as an analogy to Paul Volcker now. So I don't see any real desire on the part of the Fed to do anything comparable to what he did. I mean, they're talking about tapering and this sort of thing, but when you look behind the scenes, they're pumping about as much money into the system as they ever did, and they have a lot of different ways to do it. So a little bit of smoke and mirrors there, and people are less likely now, I think, to believe that sort of thing. And the interpretation of inflation is a lot different than it was in the 70s and 80s. You look at Shadow Stats shows this, which, they're talking 7 or 8 or 9% inflation now, but it's really in the double digits. And you look at the Producer Price Index, which is much more predictive than the CPI. And this sort of thing is just going through the roof. And all you have to do is go to the grocery store or go to Home Depot, if you can find something that you want, to notice that it's more expensive than it was even a couple months ago. So this is systemic. It's gotten its way into the whole system where we buy things normally, and the ruling class is really out of touch with what's going on. I listened to Elizabeth Warren the other day talking about the high price of meat and vegetables, and she claimed it was due to gouging on the part of producers. Well, it's called supply and demand. It's not about gouging, and I don't see that. They're raising the prices because it's raised to them. Now, when you get into even higher inflation and it's going about on a quicker basis, you'll probably see some of that. But right now, I think that is a statement made by someone who's never really worked much in her life to meet a payroll or put one out. When you traipse in the halls of Congress all of your life, you really get insulated from what's going on. And it's kind of belittles the rest of us that have to kind of buy things in real life prices rather than the contortions that the indices go through to try to make us believe that not much is happening.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much, much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof. to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really, really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.